Good afternoon. As a father, a husband, and a son, my first responsibility is to protect the health, the safety, and the security of those who I represent. For anyone who is affected with this virus, maybe you lost a loved one, maybe you're battling it, or maybe you even lost your job. What I want to say is we're working for you. That is why I am glad that the Senate has come to an agreement, and they need to act, and they need to act now. For over a week, House Republicans have worked with our colleagues in the Senate to put together a really bold relief package in this time of crisis. Now, unlike the financial crisis, this is not a result of fraudulent or irresponsible business practices. This is really a black swan event, I will say. And we'll do whatever we need for the American family, the worker, and the small business until we are on the other side of this. This legislation in the Senate will be an incredible help. There's a few main things it provides. First, it provides the resources for hospitals that are running low and need the liquidity and need the help. Secondly, it provides the family direct payment for those who have been hurt or injured in this process. It provides to the businesses, and especially those small businesses we all know and love that are shut down now, but it provides them the resources to stay afloat during this time, but more importantly, to keep their employees hired. And here we provide the resources for their rent and their employees, and it will be forgiven if they keep them hired. And for business as well, we give them the incentive to do just the same. As I look at this bill, and when I met on Sunday, there's not much that's changed. Probably less than 1%. But the number of people that had to make the decision around their kitchen table that had a small business to decide to lay somebody off because of the inaction is wrong. That's why I'm hopeful that we can get this moved through the Senate today. I know they have some corrections on some of the texts. I think that could get done. And hopefully will be the time inside the House. I've been on conference calls for the last week with our members, keeping them abreast of where we are. On one today, and we'll be on one later today. I want to make sure we review it, but do not slow it down and be able to move this to the President's desk as soon as possible. With that, let me take questions. Yes, ma'am.
Democrats have characterized this, well, at least a few days ago, as a corporate giveaway. What safeguards are in place to ensure that it isn't a giveaway, that for major corporations that will be benefiting from this, that it is, I guess, loans and not grants, and that they will, I guess, ultimately pay the government back? Walk us through that, how it's not a corporate giveaway.
Well, it's not a corporate giveaway, and let's walk through what it actually does and what it provides. If you look at the first portion of it, you'll get about $250 billion set aside for direct payments for those who make $75,000 or less to help them. Secondly, you're going to get about $350 billion in small business. Now, you're talking about more than $500 billion when it comes to businesses who are larger than 500 employees. As we hear day in and day out, they're about to lay individuals off because they do not have revenue coming in. This will provide, and much different than a direct grant or government giving them money. What government's going to do is going to secure their ability to have a loan at a lower rate so they have the liquidity to keep people working. We also were able to add a provision of a retention tax credit. So in this, maybe the employer cannot employ the person for the full 40 hours. Government will allow during these 2 to 3 months to pick up a portion of that by a tax credit to allow you to keep that person working. It is very important that we keep individuals in America in a job and in a paycheck. That will keep us stronger as we go through and battling this virus. So hopefully we could come back with almost like a hockey stick approach in our economy and come back strong. This is so different than the financial crisis. These are not banks because they did something wrong. These are businesses that had to shut down for government asking to combat and keep us healthier and safer. And with that, we'll give them the security of a loan, backing it up, going through their banks to provide them the liquidity, but also give them the incentive to keep people hired.
Are you comfortable, do you think your conference would be comfortable with potentially passing what you've seen of this compromise by unanimous consent so that people don't have to come back from wherever they are for recorded votes?
I know we're in a very challenging time. I know we have members who are quarantined, members who are battling the virus, members in New York City who could not travel here without 14 days. But I don't believe we should pass a true $2 trillion package by unanimous consent. There is a way to do it by not having to have everybody here, but also allowing everybody to have a voice. I think we should have time for debate, but I also think it would be able to pass it by a voice vote. And with a voice vote, it gives you the opportunity that your constituents and those who represent you could debate the bill, could voice their opinion and not say that everybody is agreeing to it, yes or no. But more importantly, they could also put across the desk, because some have a problem for travel to get here in time. So I think they could put across the desk where they would stand on the bill itself. I think that achieves our goal by not slowing the process down, but giving us time to read the bill and making sure that it gets through. Yes, sir.
Last question.
No, they have a bunch over here. We'll take some more.
Once the Senate passes a bill, how soon do you think the House could take this up?
Well, I would hope we'd at least have 24 hours. The Speaker has said she would give us 24 hours, and that's why I'm taking the time right now to our members, walking them through. I want to thank the number of the members inside the House on the Republican side who worked on this bill. Early on, we did conference calls with our committees. They worked on ideas. They provided it to their counterparts over in the Senate. The way Senator McConnell actually crafted this bill was the way it should be done. He did it bottom up, where it came through committees. He did it bipartisan, where Democrat senators were involved in the discussions. And he did it bicameral. Our ranking members were in communications with their counterparts over in the Senate, and you'll see a lot of the ideas through the House Republicans are actually in this bill. The unfortunate part of all of this is the delay for the last 3 days. There was no need for that. That was politics at its worst. The idea that you would have the number 3 inside the Democratic Party say to take advantage of this situation, to, what did Clyburn actually say, to recraft, to reform, in the idea of what they want in their philosophy, that is not right. People are hurting. People are losing their jobs. How many people were laid off in the last 3 days? How many people had to make that decision when this could have been passed and stronger for this American economy? Yes.
We know that there are still a few sticking points, which is why we haven't seen final bill text on the legislation. What are those as you see them, and do you have any concerns with what they're still working through?
I don't have the complete text yet. I have where we were on Sunday. I have the ideas of where we're going. So we're reading through whatever parts we have now. I know the senators are doing the same. I think that is smart to make sure there's not a problem with it. Sometimes when you move a bill, there are always 1 or 2 problems in there. We want to make sure the money would flow correctly. We want to make sure the small businesses would be able to secure the money quickly. At the same time, the hospitals and the states as well. Yes.
President Trump wants to give a hopeful deadline, Easter, and even then, as far as having business go as usual, would only be a few places here and there. If this goes on for several months, where do you see the economy going, as well as even campaigns going forward?
Well, I don't worry about a campaign right now. I worry about the health of America. And that goes to the individuals making sure they're getting treated. It also goes to the jobs of which they're losing. That's why this bill needs to move forward. I know the president, the action he took early on, denying the flights from China coming here, saved a lot of lives. I know he's taking the advice from a lot of experts. I watched just Governor Cuomo today say that the number of being affected in New York is large, but the doubling a few days ago was in 2 days. Then it was 3 days, and today it's 4 days. So it is showing that part of this is working. I know the president will take all that advice and also at the same time make sure to keep us healthy, get legislation that gives us liquidity and capital to keep people employed, keep small businesses able to survive, and at the same time, when we get through this crisis, that we could come back economically just as strong. And remember where we were before this virus hit. We were at our strongest point than we've been in more than 50 years. Just the month before, more than 270,000 jobs. But right now, it's different. And the one thing I would say, President Trump understands how to keep us safe, but more importantly, also understands how to grow an economy. And I think he'll make sure when we get through this safely, we'll get this economy back just as strong as it was before. Yes.
Two-part question. First part, if there is a voice vote, can you ensure your members, when they come here, and stand up and ask for the yeas and nays? And second part, is voice voting a long-term solution if House members can't return to D.C. for the next few months, few weeks, you don't know how long? Or should there be some discussion about other options like remote voting or voting by proxy?
Now, let me clarify. He asked me a question about unanimous consent. I am not the speaker. I don't get to determine how we vote here, so I don't want that to be true that I said this is how we're going to vote. You asked me about unanimous consent. I don't think this can pass on unanimous consent. I do believe a voice vote would allow people, you first have to have a debate and a time. Think of the size of the bill that you're asking members to vote on. They need to have their constituents have the ability to have their voice be heard, whether they're for it or against it, and why they stand where they do. Then if you have a vote, a UC does not give you a vote. A UC says it just passes. A voice vote allows you to have a vote. There are people who has a challenge to get here. So it also gives them an opportunity to put across the desk where they stand on the bill and how they would have voted had they been able to be here. I'm not sure. We'll have to take that up as we move forward, where the situation and what's the opportunity for people to get to Washington, D.C. and have time to debate the legislation. Did you have a second part, or were those both?
Yeah, the second part was long-term. I mean, if the House members aren't coming back, like, as a larger group,
Look,
you think you guys should look into remote voting and proxy voting or other options that?
Look, long-term, this country's going to be back, and we're going to be stronger, and we'll be back in the House, and we'll be working. There's many of us here working now. You watch the Senate, what they've been able to do. Right now, for the security and health of America, people are home, rightfully so. But I know we'll get past this, and when I look at what's happening out there, you look at, in the last 8 days, there has been more tests on this virus than there were 8 weeks in South Korea. Every day we learn something more about this virus, and every day, through the ingenuity of our companies, we get stronger. We find ways. It took us 2 years before we're in the first trials when it came to a vaccine for SARS. We are already in a clinical trial where individuals are receiving the vaccine. It'll take us a year or more to get there, but we're already that far ahead. Every day we find something new, and every day we get a little closer to solving this problem. Yes, sir.
The sticking point for a lot of Democrats in the Senate was oversight over this $500 billion funding pool. They say, many of them now, that they are happy with the restrictions that they've been able to include in the bill. Are you now satisfied with those restrictions?
Look, I always believe in transparency. I don't see much change. That wasn't what the Democrats' sticking point was. I was in the Sunday meeting. They wanted to change election law. They wanted to make sure the Green New Deal came in. They did get something in. They got another $24 million for the Kennedy Center. That's what we had to wait 3 days. That's what they fought for. Unfortunately, we could have passed this 3 days ago. The president would have already signed this bill. Resources would have already been going out, making sure people are keeping care of their health to these hospitals that every single member of Congress has heard from their hospitals in their districts that they have a problem with liquidity. From their small businesses is shut down. They'd be receiving the ability to have the money to pay their employees so their employees would not be hearing that they were being laid off. I don't see what they achieved by waiting 3 more days, but causing more pain to America. Yes, sir.
One point of clarification. You said you want at least 24 hours of review. Is that from when the bill text comes out or from when the Senate takes their vote?
I used the 24 hours based upon what the speaker had promised ahead of time, that she would always give 24 hours. I don't schedule the floor. That's why I'm trying to keep our members abreast of what's in it. I've done a number of conference calls, walked them through what we know about the bill, a number of our rankers each day. I would think as much with the bill of spending $2 trillion that 24 hours would at least be appropriate, if not more, for the ability for people to read the bill, have the time to review it, not delaying it, and then have the debate on the floor.
So at this point, you'd be okay, a Friday vote would be appropriate?
If we have the text, we're sitting on Wednesday, yes.
Assuming we have the
Yeah.
text in. And my more substantive question is, there's a number of Republican senators who have today pointed out an issue with the bill that some people could get unemployment checks that are bigger than their usual paychecks, and they argue that that would disincentive going back to work.
That would
Is
not,
that a problem in your view, and would you want to see that change?
yes, that's a problem. This is not a moment in time when all of America is trying to come together that someone should benefit and get a higher payment than they're actually earning while they are working by taking money from a taxpayer to pay you. I don't think any American would actually want that. So why wouldn't we just correct that bill so that couldn't happen? It's a text problem inside the bill itself, the way it's written. It's not hard to correct it. I think all Americans would want that corrected. I don't think anybody in America would want to get a benefit out of somebody losing their job, somebody losing their life over the virus, let alone take advantage of a government during that time. Yes, last question.
What do you think this says about the preparedness of this country to deal with something on this, severe level? Markets tanking, businesses closing, and the medical community not even having the most basic protective equipment. Is Congress going to have to rethink how you prepare for these sorts of things in the future based on this experience?
I always believe in continual improvement. We should do it all times. And if I look back to the last 5 years, and you look what Congress has done, we've increased funding for National Institute of Health and CDC by more than 40%. We created the infectious disease task force that actually rapid response based upon what happened with Ebola. We constantly improve, but nobody had an idea by how deadly this was, and mainly what I'd say why. China was not forthcoming. Had China allowed our scientists, our researchers, and our doctors in at the very beginning, we maybe could have contained it just in China, where the rest of the world would not have the punishment going before them. You look what we were able to do with Ebola, contain it just in Africa, because everybody was able to work together. But yes, I think there are many places we can look and improve, and we should constantly doing that. And that is one thing I know when Congress gets back they will do. But right now, the number one priority is to make sure they have the resources in the hospitals to care for the Americans who get afflicted with this disease. That's why this bill should have been passed 3 days ago. That has not changed the funding within there. Making sure that small businesses can still stay employed, keep the people working, and don't make them go to unemployment. Keeping them in large businesses that they could stay afloat for the next 2 months. If we get through the 2 to 3 months and we can pass this in a healthy way, our economy will be strong just as it was before. So this is a place the government has a responsibility. It's not a place for someone to take advantage. It's not a place to change election law. It's not a place to change your environmental views. It's a place to focus on the health of your mother, your father, your children, your spouse. It's a time that all Americans should come together. It's not a place you should take advantage that you get more payment in unemployment than you would in your job itself. Too many people have been hurt. Too many people will suffer. And it's a time to work together. And I know this is a moment that we all can come together. And I'm willing to work on the other side, just as we did from the 2 bills before this and this bill itself, in a way that we can pass the bill at the same time that maybe not every member of Congress can come back here, but their voice can still be heard. Thank you very much.